Good evening, everyone. It's Serotonin. Got some headlines to share with you. Let's just go right to here. Zimmerman takes Trayvon Martin's family and others to court seeking $100 million. For those of you that remember, this was a huge, big situation. I'm not going to go over the details because they're pretty fuzzy and I didn't really want to get into that. But what is very interesting about this is at the time, the media really turned on there was a massive reaction. They turned on the drama in a huge, huge way with this. It was something like you couldn't escape it for so long. And they had interviewed everybody. Everybody had an opinion on it. It wasn't something just like another situation. And I hate to say it, but situations like this occur often. And why was this one particularly picked out to be looked at? I do remember this dude trying to, at the time, defend himself. I don't really know. I know that it was a very difficult situation. I know this young boy was quite troubled, and it was not a cut and dry situation whatsoever. So I'm not trying to take a side here, but I think it's really interesting that this guy is actually coming out now and saying, listen, I want to tell my side of the story, and there's a bunch of people who are involved. He's not just suing the family, he's suing all kinds of people to do with this situation. So let's have a quick look here. So he is going to, what's very interesting, this is really interesting. So he was a neighborhood watch volunteer. And this is what happened. This is who he was, and this was a young boy who was living in the neighborhood that he was supposed to be watching. But what's very interesting here is the lawsuit names Martin's mother, Sabrina Fulton, who has become a gun control advocate in the wake of her son's death and is running for a seat on the Miami-Dade County Commission as lead defendant. So very interesting. And they're also saying here that not only does he want to take the family to court for wrongful giving wrongful evidence and being fraudulent witnesses, but of also bringing people in. Here, press the Zimmerman version of events with allegations of efforts by the Martin family to produce a false narrative through dishonest accounts from witnesses. So that's some interesting stuff, and I know that a lot of the real division that happened under the Obama administration it was largely due to situations like this and the mainstream media picking these things up and really going with these stories. And what's really devastating in all of this is this is an old story, a young black man being shot when he was unarmed. I don't really know the details of it, but this unfortunately happens all the time. Young white people get shot unarmed. Young Asian people get shot when unarmed. Young Middle Eastern people get shot when unarmed. Lots of people, this happens. This is a terrible tragedy. And what I really find upsetting about all of this is they're using the death of a young person to further a completely otherwise really unfounded civil war, racial war. This was what they used to stoke the fires that have been, heating the embers to what you see now. So, really interesting. This is actually a story from Australia, but a woman here was jailed for fudging resume to land a six-figure job. So this woman, 185 grand. And I just wanted to point out that, I know it's another country. I get that. But I mean, seriously, the hypocrisy of the elite Democratic Party candidates. I mean, seriously, or Democratic Party politicians. Elizabeth Warren, how many jobs did that woman land? How many six-figure jobs did she land? How many seven-figure jobs did she land by fudging her lineage? And, the fact that she has done this and nobody has called her out on cultural appropriation when, like, the Kardashians get called out all the time for hairstyles. She didn't, like, Kim Kardashian is wearing a hairstyle. She's not pretending to be someone to get somewhere. Well, yeah, she is. I'm using a terrible example. But it's not the same thing as pretending to be of a different genetic background or a different racial background in order to be given a job that is saved specifically to help support and propel people of that group ahead of themselves. I mean, there are snowflakes freaking out over the Redskins, over that name. You know, they're like, oh, it's so racist. It's so incredibly racist. Well, the irony of it is that I've worked with a few people who are First Nations, as we call them up in Canada, if you're going to be politically correct. And they often talk about Redskin. They're kind of cool with that, I guess. I don't know. Never really directly asked or anything, but it doesn't seem to be as much of a problem as the unbelievable corruption that exists on the reserves that they are literally like kept on, like as though they're like livestock or something. And when they dare to, emerge to the city, I mean, most of them are unfortunately fighting for their lives because of addiction and stuff. And just like, the suicide rate on reservations are huge, huge. Why would anybody care about the Redskins? I can't even remember what team, what city that's from, but it's so silly. Elizabeth Warren's jobs could have gone to save a woman or a man who was of that lineage, to have a leg up. One less suicide on the reservation. One more family pulled out of the depths of despair. But no, it's just taking what's not yours. It's lame. It's just lame. It makes you look really, really pathetic. Despite whatever hairstyle it is that you are wearing. I don't think that's as offensive as taking a person's job repeatedly and faking who you are. Anyway, that's my 2 cents for the night. Talk to you guys soon. Lots of love. Okay, bye.